It's not like that. Okay. Hi, welcome to this news episode of Sports Talk Central. I'm your host, Adeep Mahmood, with my normal co-host, Hunter. And today we're going to be talking some NBA, some NHL hockey, Virginia Tech recruiting. They're on a bit of a hot streak this week and could get even better tomorrow. We'll talk about that, and then we'll talk some more Orioles Nationals. And so let's first talk about the NBA free agency. What was your thoughts on all the madness going on?
I mean, it's crazy, isn't it? I mean, I love how these record-setting deals just
For
they
average players as well. For average
yeah. I
players.
mean, Jalen Brunson gets a lot of money. You saw the Zion Williamson one. He's not even played 80 games the last couple of years. He gets a record-setting deal. The J. Morant trade. Oh, no, that wasn't J. Morant. Excuse me. That was
No, it was an extension for John Morant.
Rudy Gobert. Excuse me. Or that was ridiculous. The Russell Westbrook KD stuff, the Kyrie Irving stuff. Yeah, the NBA is such a circus. I feel like it gets crazier as each offseason goes by. It has the potential to be even crazier once we see the Kevin Durant trade come out. There's now rumors that there's a Russell Westbrook for Kyrie Irving trade that could be in the works. It's insane, man. The amount of money that some of these teams have, especially with a higher salary cap, is what I wish the NHL was, because you don't see those kind of moves in the NHL.
I don't think the NHL would. I mean, the only thing I would contend with that point is that it's a lot of average players though. As great as like Zion Williamson has not deserved a max extension, and yet he's getting one. Darius Garland from the Cavaliers got a 5-year, $193 million deal. Who's Darius Garland? It's Bradley Beal's getting paid $50 million a year. I mean, he's good. Like I like Bradley Beal, and it goes to show. I mean, there's some people on Twitter that are like big Wizards fans. Basically, especially with the Durant news, like they're saying that Dame Lillard and Steph Curry are the two most loyal players in the NBA. You got to put Bradley Beal in that because he could have asked for a trade multiple times in the past few years, and he has not done that. He's taking the Kirk Cousins route a little bit. I will say that he is taking the Kirk Cousins route of getting these massive, like he's had like generational type money. Like his great grandchildren probably have enough money to go to a really expensive college by this point. But we'll see what the Wizards do there. The Nets, I don't understand what the Nets are doing because they didn't have they didn't really draft anyone, and then they spent like just so they can get Jalen Brunson, but Jalen Brunson isn't a franchise transcendent player because you got to remember his teammate's Luka Doncic, so it's not like he's so basically they're overpaying for a mid-level player. I think someone pointed out like their Vegas odds weren't actually even after the Brunson deal, their Vegas odds did not change at all. Like that's how.
Jeez.
Yeah, but then speaking of New York, I mean I think we talked in multiple episodes before about how like the Rams method of going all in, like why like whether teams should do that. I think one example that you don't want to show is probably the Nets because the Nets went all in a few years ago, and there's that tweet of they cleaned up and they got like a few years ago with Durant and Kyrie Irving and DeAndre Jordan. It didn't look so good now. And even then, like bringing in James Harden and even swapping James Harden for Ben Simmons, who appears just to be who's not motivated to play. You're now talking about a team that tried to build a super team and couldn't even get off the ground. They were just stumbling over and over and over again, which is the Nets have to be one of the biggest disappointments in the past years, like one of the biggest misfires of team construction.
Yeah, I mean, everyone thought they were gonna go on a deep run. I mean, even this year when they were playing the Celtics, right? Everyone's like, this is gonna be a tougher series, and they think this is hopefully gonna go 7 games. Game 1 was awesome when Kyrie was just putting the team on his back, and then they get swept. And it's like, well, that's not acceptable, right? I mean, you have 2 of the best players on the planet going up against a Celtics team that's good and deep and is good defensively, but we sure should have been able to win, I think, at least a game or 2, especially with a prime Kevin Durant and a prime Kyrie Irving, who's probably playing the best basketball we've seen him play in the last few years. I mean, he only played in 30 games this year due to, vaccine stuff, but we're not going to get into on here because we all know how he stands on that. But he was still playing really, really well. And the fact that they may only be stuck with Ben Simmons next year is hilarious.
Yeah, and you got because going back to the whole Lakers thing. I mean, I'm not. Look, I'm not. I'm not. It's clear I'm not right. It's like clear I wouldn't be able to run the Lakers because I would not recommend them going after Kyrie Irving, or KD because like what's the difference between LeBron, Anthony Davis, and Russell Westbrook versus LeBron, Anthony Davis, and Kyrie? Like there's not that much of a difference, and you saw how little the Lakers went. Like they didn't succeed with Russell Westbrook. Do you really think Kyrie Irving's going to make that much of a difference? And then the other thing, and then apparently they're looking for they might in fact, and if I'm the Lakers, I'm asking for Seth Curry. Like I'm asking for him instead of Durant or Kyrie Irving. You can get Seth Curry at a fraction of the price. I mean, he's not his brother. Like when it comes to like the his shooting proficiency, but Seth Curry definitely is better than most shooters, which is what the Lakers need. So I think that the smart move is if they were willing to take Westbrook for Seth Curry, which will never happen, didn't go ahead and do that because Seth Curry's going to make more of an impact on the Lakers than a Kyrie Irving. Like take away the star brand of Kyrie Irving, he doesn't really impact that team much. And I mean, it's very clear that people like me don't run these teams because they just want star power. It's just the big thing is NBA is clearly about star power, and that's why you see the same teams make it into the same teams make it, and it's just slightly ridiculous with the free agency madness. So let's move on to the Virginia Tech Athletics after that one, because I think we covered all on there. But yeah, like there's some madness. They were on a hot streak. They've had five
It's been
recruits.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I
Go
think they've
ahead.
got what five of the last 7 or 6 of the last 8. Yeah, 5 of the last 7 recruits. The only 2 that they haven't gone, I don't think, is Cotman, who committed to Boston College, and Cameron Robinson, who committed to Virginia. But Braylon Johnson, they
That's a
they
huge
now
one. That's a huge one. Braylon
yeah,
Johnson, son
that's
of
a
Warren.
legacy commit. That's a legacy commit, right?
Yeah.
Yep, they got him. They got the kid from North
Marion
Carolina
Copeland,
yesterday. Yep, they got
Copeland,
Copeland.
and Asen Stevens as well.
Yep,
I'm
Ace and
back.
Stevens, Traylon Mitchell, and they got that other kid who I'm forgetting his name.
Braylon,
They
Braylon Johnson,
Yep.
Caleb Wilson.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah, so I should say again, that's 5 of the last 7. This has been a streak that we really haven't seen in VT in quite some time. And a lot of these kids, they're from the state. You want to win
Seven
back
of
in.
them,
Yeah.
seven out of the 14 are from the state.
Yeah, you want to get better relations with your high school coaches. You start by winning back the state, and I think Brent Pry he's laying down the foundation to get this thing rolling for next year's class. Obviously, you're going to lose some battles in this class. Sure, does it suck that a commit went to Boston College over you guys? Yeah, it does. Boston College is not good. They're not going to be good. They're not going to be better than Virginia Tech these next 3 to 4 years. UVA is probably the same thing. Does it suck to lose one to a top 10 to 15 player in the state to UVA? Yeah, I don't think UVA is probably going to be as good as VT will be these next few years. But, you take the good with a little bit of bad. But, the fact of the matter is he's laying down the foundation. Here's a fun fact. They have had the top 10 players in the state of Virginia in the 2024 class. Every single one of them has taken an official visit to VT, even the number 1 player in the state. They're going to take notice of this. Are you going to win every battle with those players? No, you're not. Some of those players are going to go to the Blue Bloods
every year. There's only 25 spots, and you have to consider kids from multiple other states as well.
Yeah, I mean, some of those guys, they're going to go to Georgia, Penn State especially. James Franklin's done a great job coming into Virginia and poaching our talent. Brian Pry knows that. He wants to stop them from doing that. Alabama, Clemson, all these schools, they're going to come in and poach some at times. But if you can win some of those battles,
they've got some Loxley's a good recruiter as well.
Yeah. But if you can win some of those battles with some of your top 10 in-state recruits, the others will start to notice that in maybe some other states, in the Mid-Atlantic. So, I like what they're doing right now. They've gotten some good talent on campus. They're getting some good commits. Sure, they don't have a 4-star yet. That's potentially coming, but they have the opportunity. Darrell Robinson, he's going to be committing soon. I think Chris Culliver is committing later this week, but that sounds like it's UNC.
There's a guy going to be committing tomorrow. Most likely it's to us. I forgot. I
Yeah,
think it's
I
something
think that's
Williams.
that's Williams. Yes, that'll be 6 out of their last 8. So the hot streak is probably going to continue. He's a top 10 player in the state of South Carolina. He's a high 3-star, could be a 4-star. So, it's good that they're riding this momentum right now. I think there are some good players in this class, despite it not having a lot of 4-stars. But this is Brent Pry just took over, so I'm not really reading a lot into this one. Let's see how the season goes. Let's see how the full class goes, and then how can he get the ball rolling in 2024? If they can really win back the state in that class, I think the recruiting is going to be really good for years to come. But I'm really liking what they're doing right now. I think they've repaired a lot of relationships with some of the high schools and their coaches in the state after what Justin Fuente did. They're doing it right. And, it sounds like it's a complete 180 from what the last regime was doing. So I'm glad that they have this nice hot streak going.
Yeah, and I think and by the way, it's not just half the recruits are coming from Virginia. They have one from Maryland, one from Pennsylvania, one from North Carolina. So
Yeah.
in that entire region, they are getting the right talent there. Now you mentioned the 4-star stuff. They haven't had a 4-star recruit. You have Lace Ganem, who was the West Virginia offensive lineman. He hit rating of 247s, a .88, so he could be a 4-star. Ace and Stevens, 0.87, Dante Lovett, 0.86. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of people who are 0.86, 0.87. So over time, if you get, and then you got the Dylan Whitkey, which is the quarterback that could emerge. So and he could have his stock go up a little bit more. So there could be 2 or 3 4-stars just from the ratings boost. And but look, Fuente dug the team in a massive hole. Like
Yes.
Virginia, yeah, like when you were hearing stories like the stories just came out a few months ago about how some of those high schools felt disconnected to Virginia and how Fuente was recruiting more towards Texas and Oklahoma in that area. So I mean, if you knew that if those stories were coming out then, it's been going on. It was going on for a while. So Brent Pry's main job is mainly to repair the relationships between those high schools before you can get the top talent. The fact that he's repaired the relationship to the degree he's had while trying to
Yes.
build a path, it's been incredible. And now it's the foundation is there. Let's start to bring in the elite talent. Now, I mean, obviously you're going to lose some of the battles. Like you can't have 20 corners. You can't have a bunch of these safeties, right? Braylon Johnson, I'm really excited to see. Some of these other guys are really cool. You got some athletes. I think that some of these linebackers, like Ethan Stevens, has some really good size for someone who's 18 years old. 6'4", 210 is impressive. But you got athletes. I mean, Traylon Mitchell is probably one of the faster. He's probably going to be one of the faster guys out there.
Very quick player.
Yeah, so I mean, I like what they're doing. And I like what they're doing, and so we'll see what the recruiting looks like going forward. But yeah, I mean, it's guys from Virginia coming to their school. I mean, Braylon Johnson to me, I think, thank goodness that was the one we had to have, because if he didn't commit, then that's really bad for us, because the connection between Lauren Johnson and obviously him being at Highland Springs, you have to recruit that school really well. So it's going to be fun to watch. Now let's go talk about the second aspect of the college football discussion, which is pretty much UCLA and USC. Was it UCLA and
USC.
I know USC are now going to be joining the Big Ten, which is weird because you have teams from one coast and teams from both coasts being in the same division. That's going to be interesting.
Nothing like a volleyball game between USC and Rutgers.
Oh my God.
Now, imagine those during the week, right? You got to fly across the country, maybe miss a couple classes. Oh, yeah, then you got to fly right back. That's just.
I think they might schedule those they might try to schedule those as close as they can. But I mean, yeah, it's not fun.
Yeah, And this is the landscape of college football now. This is the second straight year that we've had a move like this. Remember, Texas, Oklahoma, they're joining the SEC. I believe it's 2025 for
Something
that
like that.
academic year. Yeah, I believe it's in 3 years. So this one's going to be, oops, screw my laptop, a year before in 2024. Um, I can't help but wonder what's going to happen in the ACC. Is Clemson going to leave? Is Florida State going to leave? Miami. I was actually reading a Terradome on the VT Scoop, and I think it was the CZY guy said, he's always heard that VT has a seat at the table if the SEC comes calling. So
We're in the SEC. We're like them and A&M, Texas A&M. Like one of those teams is going to join the SEC at some point a few years ago. They chose A&M instead of
Missouri, I
Texas.
think it was Missouri.
Oh, okay, yeah. I
Yeah,
know
I
they were
believe.
about to join. I know they were considered a few years ago. Can't remember the
Yeah,
other.
they were. I think they went with Missouri over them. It's. I think at some point, I don't think the VT is going to stay in the ACC. Um, this is. I think college football is trending to a point where we're going to have two mega conferences. I mean, the college football playoff is basically played between the SEC and the Big Ten at this point, anyway. The Big 12. Sure, Oklahoma's been in the college football playoff, but that's been it. Pac-12. Has anyone really been in the Pac-12 from the playoff? I don't really think so.
Maybe once every
Yeah,
once
I
a
mean,
full.
but not really. I mean, but it's mainly been the SEC, the Big Ten, and the ACC obviously with Clemson being really good. But I think that's where it's going. This is an ever changing landscape, and we're probably going to see another movie similar to this in in the next year. And I was going to pose this question to you, Deet. If Virginia Tech would be given the opportunity to join one of those two conferences, do you think they would go?
I think
And
I'll choose the SEC
okay,
over the Big Ten.
and I think it would obviously potentially help the recruiting. You would have much better games at Lane Stadium.
Oh yeah.
I mean, imagine for God's sake hosting Florida on a night game, Auburn at Lane, Alabama comes at an 8 p.m. on a Saturday night with Nick Saban. Sure, do you maybe get blown out? Yeah, but it's still an experience that I think a lot of people would love to go to. And the money talks at the end of the day, and I think there will be an opportunity when that does happen. I wanted to get your thoughts though on just what do you think this means for the future of college football?
I think it's gonna be two mega conferences. I think that I agree. I think that the writing's on the wall because like you said, like how many like when it comes to the college football playoffs, and it looks like they're not going to expand it anymore, any much more in next season. Like where are the teams coming from? Big Ten and SEC, and so really is it leaves the other conferences, unless you're the cream of the crop in those other conferences, it leaves them battling for the scraps essentially, right? Because you got your top prospects going, you got your top
Mhm.
high school talent going to those schools, even if and bypassing potentially um, in-state schools because they want a chance to boost their NFL stock, and the best way to do that is get to the place that's going to give them the best chance to make the college football playoffs, and that's either SEC, Big Ten, and if you're not a big dog in the ACC or Pac-12, you're not going. You don't have much of a chance because you don't really have much of a chance. So I think that it's um, you got. I think if you are one of these middling average teams, you have to find a way to join a club, even if you're like back of the line, or as long as you can enter the club, you're great. Like I'm fine being in back of the line and being one of the last people to enter the club. But so, which then brings up the question, like advantage wise, what's better, Big Ten or SEC? And you could say Big Ten because you got Maryland, Virginia, and you got Virginia Tech, and that would be interesting. Having those three schools in the same conference, especially for recruiting, would be interesting. But strategically and I think SEC, I think Virginia Tech fits like that environment in Blacksburg fits SEC perfectly. And I think that you could see, I would like to see a situation where like UVA, UNC go to Big Ten, Virginia Tech, Clemson, Miami go to the SEC if they accept that, if they can accept up to 20 teams. And then you still have Louisville. I don't know where they would go. You still would have Georgia Tech. I don't know where they would go. Like it's pretty interesting to see where like so we're like quick question like so we can so where do you think these teams would go? Like where do you think ACC like better fits? Like teams like Louisville and Syracuse and Boston College. Like where do you think they would be good? Do you think they'll move to the Big Ten or create a third conference?
Like, who wants to watch those, especially in college football, or even like in basketball? I guess maybe outside of Syracuse, but in terms of college football, I don't really think a lot of people would want to watch those. I think from the ACC, obviously Clemson will go, Florida State if they get good again, Miami, and Virginia Tech. I think those are the top 4 brands in the ACC, right? I mean,
Yeah,
I
those
think
are the most desirable brands to move to, especially into one of the big divisions. Because like Virginia, it's like let's be honest here, Virginia football is nothing. It's Virginia basketball has moments. Virginia baseball had some moments. We'll see what they do next year, but it's really been like they're the team that if they were to be in that third division, if there's a third conference of the remaining teams, they would probably be in that conference, or like UNC probably would be in that conference. I just don't see those teams as like SEC teams based on what we see Florida and Mississippi State and Ole Miss and Alabama and Georgia. I don't see some of these ACC teams like that, and maybe there's not a lot of room in the Big Ten. I mean, look, I would love to see them. I would love to see UVA kind of go into the Big Ten because they're going to get crushed in recruiting anyway. So they're going to get like even the Big Ten. It's like, well, I can go to Ohio State, I can go to Maryland, I can go to all these other schools. So why would I go there? And then even then, like that, and that would be the best case scenario because it's like, well, I can go to UVA and get crushed in recruiting, and get crushed by all those other schools, or I can go down to Virginia Tech, who might play in the SEC, and I could have a lot more fun there.
Yeah. I mean, it would just be like fun to play some new schools, have some cool light night games. The recruiting could hopefully maybe take a bump up a little bit, and it would just make things more competitive for a school that I think probably needs some better schedules right now. I mean, especially this season, the schedule is such a joke. If they had more talent, they'd probably win 10 to 11 of those games.
And to think that we were more likely going to be discussing the 3-3-5, the schedule structure, but we might not even have to discuss that because that the bigger story kind of came up there. So let's just go talk about the next topic, which is the Orioles Nationals MLB talk. Obviously, so the Nationals there's the news came out that the Nationals offered Juan Soto, what was it 13 years, 425 or something like that.
Yeah, that report was claimed to be false, I think, from Jesse Dart.
Britt Rowley, I believe was.
Oh, Britt had it too. I think Jesse of the Washington Post wrote a story. He said,
I know Britt Rowley said it as well, but yeah.
They both must have had it, but yeah, it looks like that was false. But it was a higher contract. I mean, I'm not surprised he declined it. He says over 2 years left until free agency. They're going to keep going at it. There's new ownership. It's not surprising. At the end of the day, I would be kind of surprised if he did sign an extension right now. He's playing out this season. He's going to play out next season. Scott Boras clients usually go to market. Hopefully this could be an exception here, but they're going to try to, they're going to keep going at it. Jesse said that they're going to make probably more contract offers when Boras comes to town again. Soto's been having a good year. Funny, as we're talking, Josh Bell just had a go-ahead home run in the 8th inning. He absolutely crushed this ball. He's been very hot lately. They were having a hot streak, but going up against the Pirates, they had won 6 out of their last 8. Sure, they're not really going anywhere, but it's still nice when they play good baseball in stretches. They're hopefully going to win this game against the Marlins here to avoid getting swept. Nelson Cruz continues to play well. Josh Bell's on a heater. Soto is, Soto obviously, and it's still more of the same basically with this team. But I was liking what I was seeing for the past week from them. They weren't really giving up on some of these games and stuff they played. It was funny to watch them against the Pirates. Those games are always crazy because something weird just happens. I didn't know there was a 4th out rule. I guess I don't know if you saw that on Twitter or something, but apparently they had to. It was such a weird rule. They had to, argue that he was out, but like they didn't, and then the game got to they had a run out of it, which was weird. So nothing really too much else going on with the team right now, but we're hoping that they can close out this game right here against the Marlins.
Yeah, no, and before I get to the Orioles, because there's a few things to bring up, but if Scott Boras brings up, because we know that Scott Boras is a bit savvy when it comes to contracts, and yes, he's going to want a long-term contract. But if you're Rizzo, if you're the GM, if you're the ownership, and Scott Boras says, all right, we like the money, but we want to have, because Soto is going to be, what, 23, 24, 25 years old. He's young. We want an opt-out after 3-4 years. We want multiple opt-outs. What's your thoughts, if you're a GM of the Nationals or if you're a fan of the Nationals, what are your thoughts on opt-outs being included in a Juan Soto deal?
I mean, I would maybe only have one if he wants it. I think two is a little out. I mean, you're asking him to fully opt out at that point. Now, if you want to have one, say it's like a 10 to 12 year deal, if you want to have one, maybe like that 5-6 year term or something, then okay, if the team's not going the way you want, maybe you can just opt out of your deal right there. But I wouldn't want it early on. I would kind of want it towards either the halfway point or after that. But I don't want 2 to 3 opt outs there. At least that's how I see it.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason I'm asking is like people are so concerned with the years and the money when it comes to a Juan Soto contract that they don't
Mm-hmm.
even think about the fact that maybe opt-outs are becoming a necessary part of the contract. And I just want to hear your thoughts of, if that were to be the big hurdle, how do you handle it? So, based like with the Orioles, they lost the last. I think they're on a 4-game losing streak, but the last two, I do want to bring up this touch on this one thing here. All right, Jorge Lopez has had 9 straight saves that he's completed. He's on a Zach Britt. He's been really good all year. .75 ERA, 18 straight innings without giving up a run. I think it was like 18 or 20. 37 straight innings without giving up a home run. So what happened? So what do you think happens on Friday? He comes in on a 2-1 game. It's like a 2-1 game. Luis Arraez hits a single up the middle, and then Byron Buxton hits a 2-1 home run. Twins win that game 3-2. And then you literally saw, and then you had people say, that you should trade Jorge Lopez because he blown a save, whatever, right? Then next, and then on Saturday he comes in again in a 1-run game. Um, uh, Polanco hits a home run to tie it, and then uh, Juan Miranda, who's I believe the cousin of Lin-Manuel Miranda, has a walk-off RBI single, which then has this huge thing of should Jorge Lopez be traded, because obviously he has 2 years left. He has a ton of trade value. He hasn't really done much in his career. My take on it is this: he's a first year closer. You got to keep this in mind. The guy had a .75 ERA. The guy was perfect in June. So you expect some bad outings. You have to expect some bad outings at some point, and this overreaction of, he might not be a good closer. Like, did you not see June? Did you not see the fact like him come in, give a 4-out save and strike out all 4 guys? Like, did you not see him pitch? Like, he has bad stretches. Like, guess what? You know who else had bad stretches? Zach Britton when he started closing. He wasn't absolutely perfect. In fact, it took him like 2-3 years because he started closing in 2014. He had that .5 ERA season in 2016. So Britton had like 1-2 ERA seasons, 2.5, 3. If Jorge Lopez has that, that's a successful season, and I just think that fans do kind of overreact to that, saying that like whether he should be DFA'd or whether he should be traded. Like I like Felix Bautista, but he's a rookie. I don't know if he can handle 100. I don't think if he can handle closing duties just yet. So I would keep Jorge Lopez unless you get a deal that blows your socks off. But other than that, keep him there. The pitching's been really good. Spencer Watkins had seven shutout innings, or 7 innings of 1-run ball, one of those two. Uh, Tyler Wells had 6 innings, gave up only 1 run. Dean Kremer's been solid. The pitching's been there. The bullpen's been there. I mean, they've had stretches where they would retire 21, 22 straight batters. And these are guys on waiver claims. Like, Jorge Lopez waiver claim, Perez waiver claim. Felix Bautista a year ago was in low A ball, or sorry, he was in high A ball. Like he was a guy who went from high A ball all the way to Triple A in the span of a season. So these guys are doing a good job. Obviously, they have to hit more. I still think Santander is getting traded. Maybe Mancini is getting traded. Lyles, I don't think Jordan Lyles will get traded, but he's been eating innings. He's basically been doing the job that they've asked him to do, which is keep the team in the game and having keep the team in position to win, which he's been doing. So it's gonna be interesting to see. On the minor league side of things, Gunnar Henderson finally turned like Gunnar Henderson is probably a better prospect than Adley Rutschman. He's 21 years old. He's at AAA right now, and he's been absolutely dominating. I think he has like a 296 batting average, 950 OPS. He hit for the cycle like literally a few hours before he turned 21. Oh, by the way, he's had 90, 95 at bats, 290 batting average. He's been doing this as a 20-year-old in AAA.
Jeez.
Yeah, so imagine. So that's how good he's been. Jordan Westbrook's been pretty good. I've seen a lot of people say bring up Gunnar Henderson. Let him guys chill on that. He's had 98 at bats at the AAA level. Like I said, 90, 95 of them were when he was 20 years old. He's going to be up soon. Don't worry about it. They moved. And I think someone on Twitter was saying stuff like, "Well, Adrian Beltre and Troy Tulowitzki were in the majors." And it's all about service time manipulation with Elias. Like, you do realize Michael Elias promoted this guy at AAA, him to AAA when he was 20 years old, right? Like, you didn't think he was going to be in AAA until August. He was in AAA in June. So he's going to be in the majors when he's 21. He's going to be in the majors in September, potentially, maybe even August. But then they also moved first round pick last year, Colton Cowser, the second round pick, Connor Norby, and the fourth round pick in 2020, and also a 20-year-old kid, Kobe Mayo, to Double A, which is again another example of Michael Elias does not care about service time manipulation. He's going off of merit, which explains why he moved the 20-year-old up to Double A and then 20-year-old to Triple A. But those guys are going to be there. It's exciting to see because the team's playing well. Obviously, they've had some tough losses, but 35 and 44 is much better than I thought they would be. DL Hall had started 4 innings pitched at AAA with 8 strikeouts and 1 walk, maybe 1 hit. But apparently he was tipping, like he thought he was tipping pitches, which is why in his last 2 starts he was struggling. That's exciting to see. But yeah, it's exciting to see that maybe a guy like maybe you're going to see Kobe Mayo and Colton Cowser and Gunnar Henderson, Jordan Westberg, and all those guys be in Baltimore by this point next year. And I think that's the thing that's incredibly exciting because it is this team is super exciting to watch, and it is an incomplete roster from what it would be in 2024. And with Michael Elias being as aggressive as he's been, this team could compete for a wild card spot next year. Because imagine what happens if John Means comes up. Grayson Rodriguez is a top 5 prospect. DL Hall has some of the best stuff in the minors. He just needs to learn how to control it. Tyler Wells has emerged. Dean Kremer has been solid. Like, they have pitching. They got the bullpen. They have a good lineup. And now imagine a guy like Henderson. Like, now you start to fill out that lineup. And all I'm going to say is this. We were talking about it once the lockout ended, but look, Correa, someone like a Carlos Correa, like they are doing basically what they're doing is most teams would take the top, pay a guy a lot of money and then build around him. But what the Orioles seem to be doing is building around, like building a strong supporting cast, and then they're going to go get that big name. And I think that's what's really smart because other teams, I've seen people say, well, if not saying he would join the Orioles, but let's say Aaron Judge, right? Hypothetically, if Aaron Judge were to join the Orioles, someone said, well, who would they support him with? But what the Orioles are essentially doing is, okay, so here's what we're going to do. We got Adley Rutschman at catcher. We got Mountcastle at first base. We got Gunnar Henderson at third base, Jordan Westberg at short, Austin Hayes in center, Cedric Mullins in no, Austin Hayes in left, Cedric Mullins in center. We have John Means, Grayson Rodriguez, DL Hall, Tyler Wells in a rotation. We got a good bullpen. You don't think that a big name free agent like I don't know, like an Aaron Judge or Carlos Correa, you don't think that they've built around him? They've done everything but get the big name guy. And watch out for them. Especially if they can get to 70 wins, watch out for them in those sweepstakes. And I wonder if Mike Elias exited out of the Correa talks this offseason because one, they knew that Correa was a little bit skeptical. But two, if the dominoes fell the right way, they could revisit those talks. And if Correa does opt out, imagine Correa could come to Baltimore, and you could face a lineup next year with Austin Hayes, Cedric Mullins, Ryan Mountcastle, Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson, Jordan Westbrook, Correa, and maybe a second and whoever else with that lineup. Man, the AL East is tough right now. Imagine what happens if these prospects develop. Imagine if they get that big piece. Like the AL East could be the AFC West of next year. And so that whole Dave Roberts quotes of the NL West is it's the best division, better than the AL East. I don't understand that at all. But let's finish it with some hockey news. So obviously we had a winner. You can elaborate on that stuff as well?
Yeah. So the Colorado Avalanche, they did the thing, and the Nationals just honestly just blew the game right as I'm talking about that. So that's I think it was that's just terrible. Well, Tanner Rainey just Dave. I'll put that in the. Just putting that away. What a joke. Okay. The Colorado Avalanche, they slayed the Dragon in 6 games. They took down the Tampa Bay Lightning, first championship in over 2 decades. They dented the Stanley Cup about 10 minutes after they won it because they were so excited. They then had the parade where they just got absolutely trashed.
Do people put alcohol in these Stanley Cups?
Yeah, they put everything in them. They literally put they put spaghetti in that. I've seen people put cereal in it. You put literally any kind of food in it, and you just have to wash it, basically. But there was a little dent about 10 minutes after they won it, but it got fixed up. It's all good. But the Avalanche, they're very deserving winner. They took down the Lightning pretty convincingly in that series. They were 16-4 overall in the playoffs. A very dominant championship run by the Avalanche, and this team is still going to be really good next year. They got Makar, McKinnon, Landeskog, Rantanen. Maybe Kadri's not coming back, but they can sign someone to replace him. They're going to try to get Nichushkin back. They got Sam Girard back there, Devon Taves. There's still a lot of pieces to work with there. This is going to be a very scary team for a long time. But, the NHL, the draft is this coming week. Free agency starts the week after. There's going to be a lot of trades and signings that are going to be announced on Twitter. So this is some of the best times, I think, of the year. If you're an NHL fan, especially because teams they throw out money to all of these bottom 6 players, and it's hilarious. So, that's basically it for when it comes to hockey.
Yeah. So, just in case to set Twitter on line on fire, apparently the Warriors are interested in acquiring Kevin Durant, of course, and apparently. And this is and apparently they're willing to put in package in Jordan Poole, Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kuminga, and James Wiseman. So they are pretty much if the Warriors somehow the hockey we'll see congratulations on Avalanche for winning a Stanley Cup. I don't think that the Lightning should have complained about the umpiring as much as the calls as much as were.
Umpiring, the officiating.
Yeah, the officiating, umpiring, yeah, whatever. They're the same job. But yeah, I didn't think they should have complained as much as they were complaining about that stuff. But I mean, you win 2 straight Stanley Cups, you get into a third. Tampa Bay fan base must have an ego at this point, especially in multiple sports as well. So, Avalanche. Yeah. So we're gonna be coming. So we may be recording next week. Probably on Sunday.
Hopefully, yeah.
Hopefully on Sunday. Yeah. hopefully on Sunday because I'm slightly busy on Saturday around the time we record, so we're probably gonna be recording on Sunday. But yeah, like I think next week we'll talk about the latest news in sports, whether it's NHL, NBA, NFL. I think it'll be some NFL news because training camp's coming up, and then also I'll talk a little bit about the MLB draft because that's going to be coming up in some of the teams. So like especially like us right now because we're Orioles and Nationals both picking the top five. So I'll talk about some of the big names. Maybe we show next week. Well, I'll talk about some of the names to look out for. Who are the top guys in the draft? I mean, you got just to preview. You have a lot of famous fathers. You have Andrew Jones' kid, Matt Holliday's kid, Eric Green, who's former NFL tight end for the Steelers and the Ravens. He has a son entering the draft. Carl Crawford's kid's going to be in the draft, but he's late first rounder. So there's a lot of famous lineages, and you want to feel old. Well, stop. You want to feel old? Well, here's what's going on. Um, thing going on. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, we'll be back for next week.
There